actually, now that you mentioned the wind interlude, that's another thing that kind of adds to that impression, because you have instruments like coming in and out of nowhere. Like there's the horns near the beginning that just kind of all they come in with is like the
Yeah.
from nowhere,
and then they just never show up again.
It's like a small jazz ensemble that's also maybe recently done drugs.
Hello, and welcome to the Velvet Room, or more accurately, welcome to episode 98 of Rhythm Encounter, RPG Fans Music Podcast. I'm your host today, Hilary Andreff, and with me, I have four panelists. Say hello, everyone. First, we have Michael Sollosi.
Hi.
Neal Chandran.
Hello.
And Gio Castillo.
Hey.
And as you probably guessed from that quick intro, today we are going to be discussing Persona music. This is a topic that we covered once a while ago when Rhythm was first coming back in our crossover episode with Retro. So I'm very excited to further discuss Persona music with Sollosi and everyone here.
Yeah, that's right. It feels like 100 years ago, but I think it was just September of 2019.
Correct. It feels like forever.
And 3 years is plenty of a gap to bring back some Persona music, because this is some of the most celebrated and beloved RPG music of the past several years. So and I definitely have a well deep enough to find a few more tracks for the podcast.
Same. I think it was kind of surprising going through our song database and seeing just how much hasn't been covered and how much good music. I mean, you'll see as we get into our picks. There are some surprising songs that are very popular that have not been on the show yet. So very excited for that. And, Persona is still very much popular right now with the release of Royal and all the tie-ins and exciting new stuff that we're getting. So it's always time to talk about Persona.
Yeah. I want to add, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but I'm happy that we basically have the whole breadth of the series here, from 1 to 5, and even some of the spinoffs.
No, it's not too much of a spoiler.
Yeah, we have 8 tracks, and they are from 8 different games, or at least 8 separate soundtracks. Two of them are almost the same game, but we'll you'll understand when we get to them.
Excited to share all that. So we were covering the whole series from their beginnings to most recent. So why don't we start briefly and just have everyone quickly talk about, the series and why you want to be on this episode and why you want to discuss Persona music. I'll just briefly say on my part first, I started with Persona 4, and I think some of the music, honestly, is what really kind of sold me on the game. It really contributed to just the feel of the game. It made me so much more eager to play it. Just the title screen, the Velvet Room, everything. And that still was the case with 3. I love a lot of 5's music as well. And I deeply believe in and agree with the meme of Meguro with the flaming piano saying, it's a title song. It doesn't need to go that hard, but definitely does in pretty much every Persona game. So I have a deep fondness for Persona music. So why don't we go to you next, Gio? What brings you here?
Yeah, I discovered Persona in 2012. I think my friend burned me a copy of Persona 3 Fez. Piracy was commonplace here. There wasn't really a lot of ways to access legitimate copies of PS2 games. So yeah, I just admitted to crime on the podcast, but yeah, I really liked the soundtrack. Basically, I think I didn't quite grasp the gameplay and the social link stuff. I thought Tartarus was kind of a slog at first. I didn't really appreciate it until I played Persona 3 Portable in 2017, and it was a revelation. I think it's just because I got to play it portably. I could lie down and dungeon crawl in my bed, and and then I just fell in love with the game, and I've just been a Persona fan ever since. I played Persona 4 Golden right after, and then Persona 5, and then Persona 5 Royal. I played all the game. I even played like the dancing spin-offs, and yeah. Oh man, I love, and the music all the way has just been incredible. I love Shoji Meguro.
Yeah, and Portable and Golden, there seems to be kind of a consensus there that those are kind of good versions to experience. Like you get the full impact of the social links that way.
Yeah. Persona 3 port was like double the social links, I think.
Yep.
I mean, yeah.
It's not exactly double. The female protagonist route has about a half or 2/3 of the social links brand new. But right. The female route and the male route are definitely separate experiences with a lot of really good changes.
Exactly. There are a lot of social links there that you don't get otherwise. Mm-hmm. All right. How about you, Sollosi?
Right. Well, my first Persona game was the first one. I rented it for my PlayStation in the early 2000s. Probably, I definitely know where I was in school at that point. So it was probably 01 or 02, and I did not care for it one bit. I saw that it was really liked on places like the RPG Fan and RP Gamer forums, but I didn't enjoy it. But then a couple years later, I saw Persona 2 Eternal Punishment on sale for pretty cheap. I think it was only $15 or $20. So I got that. I got that. I mean, this was probably 04 or 05. I got that, and I played the beginning of that, and I found it confusing, but definitely better than the first one. But I didn't get terribly far. Then fast forward to Persona 3 and 4 being out, and everyone getting really excited about them. I resisted playing them because I remember I didn't like Persona 1 or 2 much. But when I finally got talked into playing, I received Persona 3 Fest as a birthday present, and I played it in, I think, 2011 or so. So like Persona 4 was already out. But I really, really loved it. I immediately bought Persona 4 from a member of the RPG Fan forums, amusingly, who's on staff with us now.
Oh, nice.
And then I liked that even more than 3. So and then I eventually replayed them via the portable and golden versions. I got 5 right when it came out in 2017. I played the Q spinoffs, the dancing spinoff, the fighting spinoff. I was really Persona obsessed in the mid 2010s, playing absolutely everything that I could. I eventually went back and played Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment, and I appreciate them much more than I did now than I did 20 years ago.
Yes.
So yeah, I went from being like Persona reluctant to a Persona super fan, and I love its music as a crucial component of it, and especially how it at least when I was 10 plus years ago, it implemented things that I really didn't think of as being connected to RPGs, like hip hop beats and pop singing, and weird explorations of genre that that was always a little weird and really exciting when you experience it for the first time. So yeah, Persona music is a many splendid thing, and I have no problem at all celebrating it for a second time in a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I didn't mean to be coy about it. It was Steph Sabidlo's copy of Persona 4 that I bought.
Thank you, Steph.
Maybe I should, maybe it's been so many years, I should just give it back to her, because now you can play Persona 4 Golden a bunch of different ways and places. So, I don't need that PS2 copy anymore. Maybe if we ever do an RPG Fan staff meetup again, I'll give it back to her.
She'd probably tell you to keep it.
She probably would, and just be very Canadian about it, but I would insist that she take it back.
There we go. What you said definitely resonated. I too went back to some of the earlier Persona games after, and I don't think I'd have the same appreciation for them that I do if I hadn't also played 3, 4, and 5. And also, I think one of the things that really struck me about the music in 4 is that sort of exploration of genre. And I'd never seen a game that incorporated kind of that like more modern flair into their title screen music at that point so much.
Yeah.
So definitely to be appreciated. All right. So how about you, Neal?
My Persona experience actually taps into a lot of what you guys have said with a little uniqueness of my own. Yes, Gio saying that Persona was a revelation for him, well, my first Persona game was the first Persona game on PlayStation when it was called Revelations Persona.
Oh,
And similar to Sollosi, I didn't really like it that much at first, but once I actually took the time to like learn the mechanics and get into it, and once I invested about 10 hours into it, the game just opened up and I absolutely loved it. And there was only one other person on the RPG fan forums back then who was playing the game, and I remember getting into a discussion with him about the interpretation of some of the like Hindu deities. And
okay.
Because I'm Indian and I grew up with that, I was able to help fill in some of the gaps in his knowledge. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember my parents talking about this. I remember learning this in temple, and Persona just made like a part of my culture that I used to think was really weird and growing up into something really cool.
I remember you wrote a feature about that topic too, right?
I did, finding my persona through Persona.
Nice. I'll have to link to that in the show notes.
And as far as the music goes, like I loved how in the early Persona games, I'd never played an RPG that had a modern setting. So seeing that and hearing music with very like modern electronic textures was really amazing. And then in the first Persona games, Shoji Meguro wasn't doing that much. It was a lot of like the other composers. But then when he took the lead in Persona 3 onwards, incorporating like the hip hop beats and the little vocal samples in there, I was like, whoa, okay, this is something special.
Definitely. Well,
I don't think that this was the first game I played or RPG I played in a modern setting, because I mean, it depends on how liberally you interpret modern setting with games like Earthbound or Parasite Eve.
Yeah, I definitely played Parasite Eve first.
Yeah. So did I. But Persona's version of a modern setting is different from those because it is like, I mean, it's about Japanese teenagers, and they're trying to make it extremely clear that these could be, everyday Japanese teenagers. Like Tatsumi Port Island, and it like feels more like a real place than any of the towns in Earthbound, for example. And even though these are games about like supernatural events and people's having their identities taken or minds controlled, it feels more like a real setting than just about any of its other RPG and contemporaries.
And to piggyback off of that, it's not just the places that felt real. From even in the first Persona game, the characters and a lot of the personal issues they were going to felt real and genuine. Even with the butchered translation of the original, I could still resonate with several of the personal issues that some of the characters were going through. Like, it was, wow, these digital beings felt almost real to me.
Yeah, there's sort of an emphasis on, I don't want to exactly say everyday life, but it really kind of is, right? With the social links and the various little activities you need to do to increase your stats, things like that, going and having a giant, bowl of meat that maybe you'll be able to finish once you work up the courage to do so.
You still can't see the rice.
Yes.
But you're right. I mean, this isn't exactly a farm sim, but there's so much quotidian elements to gameplay, like going to school every day, deciding what to do with your evening. Like, do you study or do you hang out with friends? At least from Persona 3 onward, and even in Persona 2, doing things like having to explore new restaurants.
Yep.
And every time there's you can only get this food in this neighborhood of the city, and every convenience store is technically the same, but has a different remix of the convenience store music in the background. It feels a little bit more like life sim RPG than most of its contemporaries.
I don't know which 7-Eleven I want to go to.
It's like, well, I mean, the 7-Eleven on Braddock never has the Diet Brisk iced tea that I like.
Exactly.
But the 7-Eleven on Main Street is way out of the way, and it sucks taking a left out of it. And like, and that's maybe a little bit too close to real than what's in Persona. But I mean, yeah, the modern setting and its real emphasis and embracing of the modern setting feels different.
Yeah, and I think Neal also hit on it. You know, the series, I mean, it's done this with varying degrees of success and sensitivity, but, you know, there's something to be said for the fact that the Persona series doesn't shy away from certain, you know, relevant, current, and personal issues as, you know, some of the other more like epic, grand scale, sweeping fantasy style RPGs. And I think the music kind of reflects all of these elements as well, like we discussed, you know, with the blending of genre. It covers a lot of like different moods and ground, and we'll get into that. So when we were looking at the tracks here, as was briefly mentioned, we are covering several different games over a large span of time, and it was kind of interesting the way everything sort of fit together in chronological order. So we decided to go along with that, which of course means that, Neal, the first block in our listening today is completely yours because you picked our earlier games. So would you like to give a quick intro to your 2 tracks and, you know, what games they're from?
Certainly. The first track is called School Infirmary, and it's from the first Persona game, and it plays in the beginning of the game when your character wakes up in the school infirmary after he and his friends fainted.
Okay.
And the second track is called Mount Katatsumuri from Persona 2 Innocent Sin, which plays during a mid to late game dungeon in that game. 2 guesses what the location is.
I'm really glad we have some Innocent Sin music on here. So, all right, let's go listen to School Infirmary and Mount Katatsumuri.
Okay, so the first track, School Infirmary, I picked it because it plays at the very beginning of the game, and it just really set the tone for me that, okay, this is going to be a strangely unique yet really compelling adventure. See, it plays towards the beginning of the game. It's after you and your friends play the Persona game, meet the ghost, faint, have that weird between consciousness and unconsciousness dream with Philemon, and then it's like, oh, wait, you're finally waking up. And I liked how that like watery texture and sound effect, it was both relaxing yet a little sinister, almost like, okay, I'm glad I'm waking up from this crazy experience, but I'm still a little groggy. There's still that little something's not right going on in my head.
Yeah, I feel you with, I think you referred to it as the water texture. A couple weeks ago, when we were doing the Castlevania music, I was describing how sort of one type of song in Castlevania games is water music or cave music, where you'll have, like cascading notes that give the feeling of running water or trickling water or a waterfall, and they have that here too, with the I don't know exactly what kind of it almost sounds like a harp, but just the very high sort of cascading notes down. But over this very serene higher note, you have a somewhat dark low growl in the lower notes, which is either a bass or low strings, or a 1996 PlayStation approximation of those.
Yep.
But the fact that you have this somewhat ethereal, somewhat like running water, serene musical choices over over this low growl, and you know that based on the context of the game that something is wrong, and you aren't in Kansas anymore exactly. It basically is. I think it's trying to create a mood that is at the same time unsettling, but also sort of calm, and I think it succeeds in that goal.
There's sort of a phrase that we use a lot, like in RPGs, that kind of came to mind when I was listening to this, and it's sort of the like, it's safe to rest here, or it's not safe to rest here, kind of thing. I don't know why that popped into my head, but because there are many things going on in the song, like the sort of simple but very mellow melody. I mean, it's a very small number of notes. I think it's a 6-note run that's sort of like repeated and changed slightly to create kind of like a calm, stable, chill mood. But then there's an undercurrent, like Sollosi said, that's sort of quite unsettling. And all of it together also kind of has a very like 90s feel to it.
Yeah.
Which I enjoy a lot.
Yeah, I was definitely, because when you say the 90s feel, that totally remind me of how even in a lot of like 90s rock back then, whether we're looking at guitarists like Steve Vai or bands like Korn and Rage Against the Machine, they were starting to experiment a lot with using those kind of watery textures in their guitar sound effects to create that eerie, sinister vibe in those styles of music.
Yeah, I can see kind of like a correlation or similarity.
Yeah. I guess to add to like the idea that it sounds very 90s, like my immediate thought when I was listening to this song was like, this has like Resident Evil save room vibes. Like this could easily be like a Resident Evil. I don't know. It has the same kind of cadence, like the notes, and I don't know. It's mysterious. It's like, I feel safe here, but am I really safe here? I don't know. Yeah.
This area is safe, but there's a caveat, kind of. I think that's conveyed really well.
Yeah.
You're safe here, but maybe don't open the door.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in the PSP remake of the game, that scene has a very like upbeat piece of music instead, and
oh no.
And again, as much as I loved the soundtrack to the PSP remake, the music itself was fantastic. Some of the atmosphere in like the original music, like we heard here, was just missing.
Yeah, the PSP remakes came after Persona 3 and 4 were already out in the ecosystem. If anything, Atlus was doing some capitalizing on how more popular Persona was worldwide now than it was 15 years earlier. So those PSP remakes have more of the Persona 3 and 4 influence in them. Lotus Juice, the rapper in a lot of Persona 3 tracks, was a music supervisor on some of them. And he even has pieces. I think he's in the openings to both of the Persona 2 remakes. Yeah, I'm not surprised that the change from PS1 Persona to PSP Persona like is less sinister and more and a little bit more like bubblegum pop. So that's not a shock to me.
Yeah, sort of, especially with, like you said, 3 and 4 already out in the ecosystem. It's almost kind of like they were going back and kind of like maybe making it sound a little bit more, quote, cohesive or in line with the others, potentially.
I mean, do you guys like the change, like that the music got Shoji Meguro-fied in a way? Or is it better than the original?
Well, I don't know the original Persona 1 soundtrack terribly well, because again, my experience is I played Persona 1, didn't like it. Then I know the PS1 Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, but the PSP Persona 2 Innocent Sin. So it's my Persona soundtrack experience jumps around a little bit, but it's maybe Meguro-fied, maybe more Kitajo-fied, because Atsushi Kitajo was the music supervisor to some of the later Persona spin-offs, and he is definitely very much upbeat guitar and piano at the same time kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and I love Kitajo, but it's a different vibe than what the old Persona soundtracks was. Especially if you do something just like I don't know, just watch like the opening anime video to any of the PS1's Persona games versus any of the PSP remakes, and you'll get an idea about the change in tone. It's not bad, but it is definitely different.
Yeah, I think for me it's a question of mood. If I feel like being moody, I would probably definitely say that I prefer the originals. All right, I'm just checking quickly to see if there's anything else in my notes that I wanted to say. No, I think we hit on most of it. I had a lot in my notes about like how this song conveyed most of it conveys like this great musical idea of tension reduction, but then there's that little piece that's still tense.
And that's basically the first Persona game in a nutshell.
Which is really neat to think about. All right, well, in that case, are we ready to hike up into the mountains?
Sure, let's hike up a mountain. All right, so Mount Katatsumuri from Persona 2 Innocent Sin is probably my absolute favorite dungeon theme out of like all the Persona games I've played. Like with the track itself, I love how it kind of starts off with that kind of head bobbing, throbby sonic texture like a Depeche Mode or something before it goes into like a take on the game's main theme, which is Kimi no Tonari, the da na 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 na. And then the percussion drops out and it gets like very flowy and ethereal, and it's like, even though just one cycle of that song is only about a minute and a half, it never wore out its welcome as I was going through the dungeon. And I love how the way it represents the main thing I love the most about Innocent Sin soundtrack is that the soundtrack as a whole was harbored around like variations of common themes, and this song had, I guess, my favorite remix, for lack of a better word, of that main theme.
And that's something that's definitely carried over into later Persona games a lot. There's a lot of like different refrains of different pieces of the main themes, and they kind of have motifs that they build on, for sure. And this is a good kind of early example of that.
Yeah, it's really cool seeing the Sumaru City opening melody that Neal sung a short time ago interpreted this way. when there are common motifs or recurring themes linked between tracks, it always makes a soundtrack feel more cohesive, and you get that those synapses firing in your brain of recognition. That like when you recognize something or get a reference, you tend to enjoy something more. So that's I think it's a powerful effect that's done very well here, because the sort of high energy but still dark tone of this soundtrack of this song is much different from the very pleasant version of the same melody that's in Sumaru City.
Right.
But it's still cool, and when you recognize the connection, it's great. And also, I just love this dungeon because you collect Super Sentai masks in it. That's the best part, obviously.
What more could you ask for?
Oh yeah, listeners, if you haven't played Persona 2 Innocent Sin, Super Sentai / Power Rangers masks are a major part of the plot, and that is not a joke, because I am a Tokusatsu fan. That is a true fact.
For me, my thought on this song is that I don't know if you guys are familiar with Italo disco. It's like a Italian disco. It's like, and the interpretation of the Sumaru City theme just reeks of like that style of dance music from the 70s. Like I don't know, like this song felt like a disco song to me, like an understated one, and like with like a abrasive like thumping rhythm, but I don't know.
Understated disco is not a phrase you hear super often.
I could see the like early like Eurobeat influences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like again, I mentioned that one that even in the very beginning, it sounded kind of like Depeche Mode to me, and again, there's a electronic music group heavily influenced by those sounds.
Yeah, and once again, we're talking about, we're likening this music to maybe slightly earlier, but still, music outside of the game music sphere. Because in the case of Persona music, those are pretty easy comparisons to make, which is cool.
And again, that ties back to what we were saying earlier, how it just makes the modern setting feel a bit more real and genuine. I mean, the music does that. And to tie into what Sollosi was saying earlier, having like the variations of familiar themes just makes the entire game world almost feel familiar, like home.
Yeah, and I appreciate the amount of movement thematically just in the song itself. Like, it has that sort of tie into a familiar theme, but you mentioned the percussion dropping in and out. There's kind of a more ethereal, like slower section. There's a lot going on. There's some shifting in tone and movement, and for such a short loop, I mean, I think that's done effectively, and it's nice because that really creates, like, especially in a dungeon, especially one where you might be there for a while, like it's very important to have that, and I think this track nails it.
Yeah, I haven't played this game, but I feel like I wouldn't really get tired of it, because like you kind of have to listen carefully to like hear the melody, and like there's so much to it. So yeah, I think it's worth listening to over and over.
And I think a lot of this Persona music also just does really well with layering the different parts to create kind of a lush sonic atmosphere. So you can listen, you might discover something new on repeat listens, which is always good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now I want to go play really either of the Persona 2 games.
I think about replaying these Persona games I like a lot fairly often. The problem is I usually don't have 90 hours to spare.
Yeah.
I mean, I maxed out the game clock during my first playthrough of Eternal Punishment.
Nice.
So I don't even know how many hours I spent on that game, because I think I spent most of it just loitering around the city or just going to places and listening to the music.
I bought these games with I won the Staffel like a couple months ago. I bought these games with that money, like with the prize, and yeah, I'm I'm planning on playing it sometime next year. I just don't know when. I also
awesome.
I'm like trying to find 90 hours to spare as well.
Yep.
When I guess when I was less judicious of my use of my personal time, I played Persona 3 and 4, I think 4 times each, maybe, because with Persona 4 I played it, then I played the New Game Plus, then for Golden I played it through again, and then the New Game Plus again. So the reason I haven't snapped up new copies of them on Steam and I probably won't on the consoles coming up is because I've just already played them so many times, and I'm always busy with a podcast game or another. Not a coincidence. I stopped playing Persona games over and over in 2015, also the year that Retro Encounter began. Just throwing that out there.
All right. Well, in this case, Neal, we have shared your tracks. We have all learned. We appreciate your insights and enjoyed what you brought today. And now we have all ranked up with the Death Arcana, because that is the Arcana you picked before we recorded. So, yay, RPG fan can now fuse better Death personas.
Such a wonderful yet misunderstood Arcana, Death.
Indeed. I couldn't have a Persona episode without bringing up the Arcanas in some form for another. So, yep, we each get to rank up after our tracks are done.
To what? Like, are we like rank 2? Did we hit rank 10 already? Or
I don't think we've hit rank 10 already. I'm going to say, since we've already talked about Persona music, maybe we're like mid-rank somewhere, maybe 6 or 7 right now. We still have some work to do, but we're getting some decent Personas at this point.
Yeah. I could beat the game with these.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
We haven't spent hours and hours and hours of extra time, ranking up and getting the exact perfect best ones, but it's workable.
Yeah.
All right. So now we are going to transition a little bit further on in time to our next block. And it looks like I have a track and Gio has a track in our next block. So I'm going first with the credit song from Persona 3, Memories of You, which is definitely Shoji Meguro. I'm very excited to bring it on. And Gio, what's your track?
I'm bringing Time from Persona 3 Portable. You hear it often, like when school starts, and I think when school ends too. I actually haven't played the female protagonist route where this song plays, so I can't really say for sure, but I've definitely listened to this song a million times, so I hope you guys like it too.
Nice. All right. Well, let's go listen. 君の手で守ってくれ
一度君に会えると信じ一人迷い雨の夜待ち続けて忘れないよ駆け抜けた夜をまだゆく輝くひとときみんなと一緒だったかけがえのない時と知らずに私は過ごしていた今はただ大切に忍ぶよ I will embrace the feeling 君はね確かにあの時私のそばにいたいつだっていつだっていつだってすぐ横で笑っていたなくしても取り戻す君を I will never leave you 儚くたゆたう世界を君の手で守ったから今はただ翼を畳んでゆっくり眠りなさい永遠の安らぎに包まれて Love through all eternity 優しく見守る私のこの手で眠りなさい笑ってた泣いてた怒ってた君のこと覚えている忘れないいつまでも決して Until my life is exhausted まだゆく輝くひとときみんなと一緒だったかけがえのない時と知らずに私は過ごしていた今はただ大切に忍ぶよ I will embrace the feeling 君はね確かにあの時私のそばにいたいつだっていつだっていつだってすぐ横で笑っていたなくしても取り戻す君を I will never leave you 「
Okay, so Memories of You. This is probably a familiar track for pretty much everyone here and probably a lot of listeners. I struggled a little bit because I know this is an obvious pick. It's the credit music from 3. It has a lot of emotional impact. I don't want to give too much away. I mean, I know it's an old game, but and the main reason I picked it is it's one of those songs where I know we are kind of underrepresenting on Persona music that has been on the show so far, but I was really shocked that this particular song has not been on here. So I went ahead, I picked it. It's just an incredible mix of, like, I love the way the guitar and the piano flow together, and I love the rhythm of the vocal part. It's just so easy to get into, bob your head to, sing along with, hum along to. And I think it's one of those songs that can hit differently and have a little bit of a different emotional tone depending on how much you're thinking about the game, how much you know about the game, or just kind of what sort of mood you're in at the time, which is really interesting to me. Like, I think by default to me it's sort of like emphatically reflective and a little bit wistful, but it can definitely be more sad as well, and kind of determined, like things are going to be okay even though this awful thing happened sort of feel to it. So, and it's interesting how it fits in with the naming convention. Persona 3 has a naming convention, like basically a lot of the track names are memories of X, Y, or Z. Except where it comes to the actual, like, C's group themselves. A lot of their music has kind of more active titles, which is interesting, except for this one, which is pretty thematically interesting.
I think it's interesting that this is definitely a sad song based on the context of what happens at the very end of Persona 3. But it's not slow. It's upbeat, but it has this feeling of wistfulness, and we've been through all of this, and now now something's tragic, but it's not but it's not, you know, depressingly tragic. It's weirdly optimistically tragic. Is the tone of the song to me, and I mean this is sort of true of Persona 3, 4, and 5, where like the feeling of the end credit song is we've been through so much and we'll never be the same, but there's still hope.
Yeah, I don't regret any of it, and now we have hope for the future, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Nevermore definitely does the same thing.
Yeah, Nevermore. Yeah, Nevermore. Maybe even brings tears to my eyes even more easily than Memories of You. Even though I think the context of the game is sadder for Persona 3, but and also, geez, the ending scene in Persona 2 Innocent Sin is a heartbreaker. Holy moly! But yeah, back to Memories of You. The song, like the way that it's an upbeat pop song, but then it has it goes into this echoing piano that moves away, that makes you like think of, you know, I don't know, like someone walking away and disappearing into the distance, and
right,
the way that
or
you
like
see
calling back from a distance to each other.
Yeah, and the way that in the credits video you see the sort of profiles of the main characters sort of come in and out of view in a way that's like you're almost looking at like a yearbook or a photo album with the memories of these people sort of fading in and fading out again. It's a beautiful song, and in the proper context, experiencing it at either the exact right day or the exact wrong day, it will elicit tears from your dry eyes.
Yeah, call and response, I think, is one of the main, like, last main things I want to point out about it, because it's used so well in this song, I think. Just even with the piano, like you said, with it, and then that's reflected in the vocals as well. For
me, like, the piano, like, kind of evokes, like, a sense like I'm exhaling. Like, I'm like, Hugh, like, after all that, like, and like, I don't know, like, when I finished this game, I felt catharsis from this song. I was like, I finally beat this game, for one, and two, like, yeah, I mean, 120 hours later, but, and also, like, yeah, like, this, I mean, that scene with, I don't know, can I say it? Like, I mean, it's an old game, right? Like,
I would hesitate.
Okay.
Because a lot of people listen to this podcast without having played these games, and I got crap on Twitter for spoiling a game that was over 20 years old once. So
Right.
If we want to give spoilers, we have to give a warning now and then be very clear about it.
Right. That's okay. I don't want to ruin it for anyone. And I just want to, like, whatever happens at the end, like, I was holding my breath the whole time because, like, I wanted to know if I don't know how do I describe it? Like, I was expecting that to end happy, but it didn't. And
you're sort of like waiting during that last scene, like, are things going to be okay or not? What exactly is going to happen?
Yeah. And it didn't. And then this song played. And yeah.
And then you get this sort of like memory yearbook sort of effect, which is like, oh, it's over too.
Yeah. And I'm with you guys. I love this song so much.
I think if you ask any Persona fan to list like their, top 10 favorites, this one is going to be up there. I mean, because like all of you said, this track was just the ultimate culmination of what was a very, like, emotionally charged journey that this game was, and even the way it ended, it was almost like what Schmendrick says in the book and the movie The Last Unicorn: there can never be a happy ending because nothing ends.
Yep.
So it was so the whole idea of it's melancholy because loss is just so gut-wrenching, but also upbeat because it's also a celebration of life.
Mm-hmm. And it's also musically, I think it's a culmination of, like we said, some themes you may have heard earlier, some techniques that have been used earlier, things like that as well. So it kind of blends a lot of now familiar things that you've been, holding with you throughout the soundtrack and the game. You spend a lot of time with the music, you spend a lot of time with the characters, and this is kind of a nice, like, I don't want to say debrief, but just kind of like a nice culmination, like you said, Neal, of all of that.
That song was definitely worth hearing at the end of that journey, because it's like we all said, it was all the emotions right there. It's like it just felt like Persona 3, it wasn't just a game, it was an experience.
And we tell this joke a lot, I think, but more than a lot of other RPGs, Persona 3 really was the friends you made along the way. and this song elicits that very, very clearly. It's a powerful ending. It really is, and I think this is one of the definitive songs of Persona 3 for sure.
And I think it's rare, like, so much game music tries to accomplish that very thing, right? That's a lot of what JRPGs are about. But I don't think very many of them do that as successfully as this one. So,
and I guess now it's time to talk about time.
Time.
Yeah, it's time to talk about time. This song is one of those songs that I don't even really know the context of it. I mean, I have an idea because I've seen, like, gameplay, but it's a song that I've listened to. It might be my most listened to Persona song, and I was also a bit surprised that we hadn't featured it before because I figured it was quite popular. And, like, I was debating, like, what version of this song should I focus on, because, like, I also love the live band version of the song. There's, like, an acoustic, like, piano based version of the song that it's really sweet, although it's a bit sentimental. And then there's also the one from the Persona 3 dancing game, which is Atsushi Kitajo. That he remixed that song, and it's really good. And it's like a little swing section in the middle. It's like, whoa, it's so good. But then I feel like nothing really beats the original. I think I still prefer the original the best. And a big reason for that is, like, it's such a good showcase for, like, this signature guitar sound for Persona 3, which I love. Like, it's like this flangey guitar. It's like it's 80s, very 80s guitar, and I can't get enough of it. I just love it in every single song it's in. Yeah,
it's always just there.
Yeah, it's always just there. It's like it's kind of like in Persona 5, like that bass sound, which is just like in every song, and it's part of the signature of this game, and also the melody. I sing the melody to myself like all the time. It's just so fun to hum, and I don't really have anything like too insightful to say other than I just really love this song so much.
Well, I can maybe provide a little bit of context, because again, I've played through Persona 3 so many times, including the FemC route twice on 3 Portable. Time is one of the everyday school songs. I think it changes to a different track around the midpoint of the game. But Persona 3's female protagonist route in Portable has its own soundtrack. I think it's around 10 or 12 tracks that were made new by Meguro for the game, and it even replaces the like Persona 3 classics like Mass Destruction with new songs just for the new protagonist. And at the risk of being sexist, I think Meguro was trying to give the new songs in Portable a bit of a more feminine edge. They're very. It's a different it's a different vocalist. It's
Yep.
I feel bad. What's her name?
Mayumi Fujita.
Yeah, it's Mayumi Fujita instead of Yumi Kawamura. And I think her voice is a little bit more pure and less harsh rock than Kawamura's. So it's like, there's a bit more sing-song freshness to the new tracks in Persona 3 Portable. And I love Mass Destruction, but Wiping All Out is also a banger.
That's fair. And then we get two, not just one.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Time is one of the sort of everyday songs outside of dungeons or battle in the FemC route, and it's a really, really good one. And I think it's emblematic of the change in tone when you play that route instead of the protagonist route.
Yeah, there's like a bubblegummy quality to the songs. I don't know. Maybe it is sexist now I think about it, like that they would put it like that. But the music that they produced was excellent. Well, no doubt.
I'm not sure if it's sexist or not again, but like there is a change in tone from the soundscape of the male route versus the soundscape of the female route. I think it might be sexist to attribute those specific tones to male or female or masculine or feminine, but it is a change, and I think that was a deliberate choice by the composer. But it's still awesome. I mean, I'm not that's neither male nor female nor here nor there. It's a great track.
Yeah. What I really liked about this one was just the way it flowed so seamlessly between like the various like tempo and beat changes. Almost, and it's almost like how, during the school day, yes, the school day is the same, 6 hours, but there's some classes that go super quickly and others that feel like they drag even though they're like the periods are the same time. So I feel like that kind of that smooth shifting back and forth between the various beats and tempo changes just felt like time passing.
Yeah, and it does it in such a way that is very familiar to anyone who's recalling being a student, I think. At least to me, listening to that, I sort of was like, oh, okay, I can see how this could like represent how a school day feels time-wise. I don't know. It was very interesting. And
time-wise.
I love all of the everyday tracks in Persona games. You hear them a lot, and I just never stop appreciating them. They're way more than just a background. Like, they really create the atmosphere, and this one definitely does that well.
Agreed there.
I feel like maybe like the chorus, like the faster tempos, like it's like after school, like it's like yeah.
Oh, okay, time to move.
Or between classes.
Maybe.
Yep. All right. Well, I think it might be a time to move a little farther forward chronologically into our next block, which looks like I have the first song in that block too, so that means my songs are done, and we leveled up the Strength Arcana, because that's my favorite. That and Fortune. So, yay!
Woohoo!
And my choice for my second song, I alluded to it a little bit earlier. This is really like the song that kind of dragged me into loving Persona music, and that's Pursuing My True Self, which is the opening from Persona 4. And then Sollosi has the other track in this block.
That's right. This is a slightly obscure one because it was only appeared on an arranged soundtrack, and it's not a main series Persona game either. This is Princess Amagi Traditional Taste Mix from Persona 4 Arena's original arranged soundtrack, which was a 6-track bonus disc that I think you could buy separately in Japan, but was bundled with the game in its first run worldwide.
All right. Let's continue to level up our arcanas today and pursue our true selves and go listen to these.
We are living our lives, about with so much information. Come on, let go the remote, don't you know you're ready on a jump for that. Turn us the boat, the book in on the road, but I don't use hey, I've been cruising, loading, quickly reaching maximum capacity. Want it, gonna show some my identity. Get up on your feet, deep down the world, catch a glimpse of the whole world. Snooping round and we'll get you nowhere. You look tough in your mind. We all dropping our maze of relationships. Life goes on with or without you. I swim in the sea of the unconscious. I search for your heart, don't see my true Get up, it's time to get real. Can't control the steering wheel. Outside isn't about a mystery. Won't get out so easily. We all live in our lives, so we realize what's happening. Hey, brother, watch yourself. Grab your things, don't miss your chance. Find your own rhythm and dance your own dance. Be creative, chart your course. You must know what is ahead. Driving through the end of the ocean. Living up security. You are standing in the middle of another world. It's hard to figure real emotions. You are starting in a shop where with bitter tears. Let me help you
So, pursuing my true self. Let's let go of the remote and start talking about this awesome song. Like I said before, it basically got me into the series. I was hooked like right from the beginning with the great little piano stings and drum beats. And just watching it along with the opening movie was such an amazing treat. Like, it's hard to describe. This was, I mean, maybe some other games kind of, like we said before, had a modern setting, but I mean, I don't think I'd ever seen or heard a JRPG this cool, for lack of a better term. And this song really did that. I love how catchy it is. It's got some of those levels of complexity that we expect from Persona music, you know, some different rhythm transitions, lots of different parts going on, a really, really fun beat. And it has that classic kind of Persona message about finding your true self, but especially because it's Persona 4, you know, finding yourself and understanding your true self in this environment that's kind of full of misinformation and fog, really. Because, you know, a lot of people have probably already played Persona 4, but one of the big premises there, there's basically a TV world. Part of what the investigation team has to do is figure out the mystery of the Midnight Channel, which is kind of like starts out as an urban legend, but ends up being this kind of like collective subconscious world inside the TV. So they're kind of searching and seeking out the truth in that maze of information and media bombardment, which is, you know, still a very relevant message. So it's another thing I appreciate about the song.
Yeah, the metaphor of discovering the truth and through a fog of lies or ignorance is a theme that's hit really hard in Persona 4. I mean, the reach out to the truth is the name of the main battle track from Persona 4, and there's even you even sort of have to at one point there's a boss that's an evil god of fog that's that's clouding the truth. And again, you're sort of playing detective and sussing out this urban legend. And also one of the themes in Persona 2 is that if enough people hear an urban legend, it becomes true. Yep. in Persona 2. So that feels like, I think that sort of story set up for Persona 4 feels like a callback to Persona 2. But back to the song itself, like, this is not a normal feeling song. Its piano is not easy to follow, and percussion is not easy to follow. The voices trade. The vocals come in and change tones.
Yeah, and it's a little asynchronous, I think is how I would describe it.
Yeah, it's asynchronous, and the phrases don't perfectly flow into each other. So like it feels not off, but it feels like a little bit It feels syncopated and not sort of like it's not disco. It doesn't have a clear 4 on the floor that you can dance to, but it changes directions so many times that it's fascinating, and it's I think it's a total package that leaves, if someone's playing Persona 4 for the first time and sees the opening video, they're like, what the hell is this game? But also, I need to play this game.
Pretty much, exactly. I love one thing they do is that sort of the matchup between the verses and the chorus, because you're right. I think the verses are very asynchronous, and then everything kind of syncs up a little bit for the chorus, where they're telling you to, you know, like, get up, go find the truth, kind of thing, and then it gets a little bit more asynchronous again. And
weirdly, the opening music for Persona 4 Golden, Shadow World, is almost the opposite. It's like a poppy dance number. Yep. While this is more like a you're surrounded by the fog of lies. You need to like seek out your true self.
Yeah. I feel a little bad because like it's hard to play this version of the game nowadays. I don't think this song is in 4 Golden. I'm pretty sure it's not, although I might be wrong. But yeah, it's
Shadow World is good too, but
yeah, but this one is one part of this game, of this song, that always catches me off guard when I listen to it. It's like there's like in the middle, there's like all of a sudden like a woodwind comes in, and it
the interlude, there's like a little jazzy like flute interlude.
Yeah, this song is so it's a lot of fun. It's so much fun, and yeah, I like what you guys said about the like how you really can't seem to like pin it down,
place
like,
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, now that you mentioned the wind interlude, that's another thing that kind of adds to that impression, because you have instruments like coming in and out of nowhere. Like there's the horns near the beginning that just kind of all they come in with is like a
Yeah.
from nowhere,
and then they just never show up again.
Yeah, it's like a small jazz ensemble that's also maybe recently done drugs. and I should mention this song is in Persona 4 Golden, but I think you have to like play through Shadow World once, and then it appears as the second opening,
okay.
Ooh,
or you have to go into a menu and change it or something.
Yeah, I know it wasn't like directly and easily.
Yeah, it's not, and the same thing is true in Persona 3 Portable. You can find the opening tracks to Persona 3 and Persona 3 FES in there, but you have to dig around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, I definitely get that acid jazz vibe from that song, and when I first heard it, I immediately got like a bit of a Cowboy Bebop vibe.
Oh, yep.
You know, like that similar vibe from that opening where the music wasn't that immediately catchy thing, but it was still very compelling. The music was challenging, but you just kept wanting to listen to it. And also what I like is that it sets up Persona 4 as being a very unique adventure from, say, Persona 3. And this was a very unique adventure. And even the whole idea of the TV being the conduit of misinformation, if you look anywhere in the world, especially in very rural areas that are disconnected, that's their link to, I guess, the world at large is the TV, and the information that's filtered through the TV is not always, the real thing. It's often biased.
Yeah, and I think it's just this really sets the tone musically as well. Like a lot of the other music from 4 isn't quite this sort of like acid jazz, improvative kind of surprising, but you have a lot of kind of bits and pieces that come back and it sets you up like, okay, this is modern, these are the themes, this is thematically, musically, we can expect that to support this idea of like finding your true self. I think it sets up like reach out to the truth pretty well. I always feel like these two songs are kind of connected. Well, speaking of Persona 4, let's talk about our next track and a specific character from 4.
Sure. My track for this episode, or my first track for this episode, is the traditional taste mix of Princess Amagiya, which is Yukiko's theme in Persona 4 Arena. Persona 4 Arena is the fighting game spin-off of the Persona series that has most of the cast of Persona 4 and about half of the cast of Persona 3 all fighting each other. It's made by Arc System Works, the same team that makes Guilty Gear and BlazBlue. So and this is this track like starts out very slow. There's a lot of piano and strings that goes into Japanese flute, and then sort of it moves into some sort of bigger voices later with more percussion and electric guitar. And it was the Persona 4 Arena soundtrack was done by Atsushi Kitajo and Toshiki Konishi, who are both sort of on the Atlas B team of composers. We were talking about how Shoji Meguro was not the main composer of Persona 1 or 2, and I think that's mostly because Meguro came into his own a little bit later with Shin Megami Tensei 3, where he was the lead composer, and then when they made Persona 3 shortly afterwards, he was the lead composer on that, and 3 Nocturne and Persona 3 were such huge successes that I think that elevated Meguro's spot on the ladder, as it were.
His standing.
Yeah, exactly. And sort of Meguro became sort of the definitive composer of Atlas's fairly incredible run of PS2 games in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So this is not Meguro, because this is Persona 4 Arena was definitely a spin-off game, and I'm sure Meguro was working on Persona 5 and maybe other things when this game came out. but again, it's a little bit hard imagining Japanese teenagers beating themselves up with chairs and guns and boxing gloves to this song, and that's because the original version is considerably more upbeat and aggressive. But this again this came on a arranged soundtrack disc that and isn't part of the original one. That soundtrack disc, the 6 tracks on it are more. All of them are songs with more of a beginning and an end, and aren't designed to loop the way that a lot of video game music is. And a lot of them either slow down the song or have it pivot towards a genre that maybe doesn't fit a fighting game as well. Right. So so it's like the Yosuke's theme in the arranged soundtrack is more electro poppy. I think it's Akihiko's themes arrangement is a lot more sort of is a little bit more like a slower hard rock version of his theme. But this one like has this beautiful flute and piano and I think harp that would not fit in a fighting game normally. But that's also I think this track is more Kitajo than Konishi, because the one thing that Kitajo loves more than anything else is to have like a piano break in the middle of a rock song with electric guitar in it. Yep. So so like the fact that this is like a piano voice that then jumps into electric guitar and piano drums, together, and with a like, oh, this is rock instrumentation, but now there's like a piano break that's with a piano solo in the middle of it. It's like, oh yeah, that's this guy. I've heard this before. But I really, but also because Yukiko in the game, in all the Persona 4 games, she's how do I put this? Like her family is very traditional, and they own a traditional Japanese inn and hot spring. So like she has and part of her story arc is her battling with her family's expectations of her, right? And that sort of sense of tradition and like where she fits in it and whether she wants to pursue it or not. Yes, but because of her background, she's the character that would be, wearing a kimono, working at a Japanese inn where music like this or traditional enka or something would be playing. Right, you'd hear enka or like a shakuhachi or shamisen or. Yeah, I'm not sure if the wind instrument here is a shakuhachi or not. Yeah, I'm not sure either. It could be, but it's definitely some flute-like instrument that is played like in a Japanese style for sure. Yeah, I was just listing off potential traditional instruments for the inn. But I mean, she's definitely like in the game, sort of. She has this image of being like the traditional beauty, and so I think it's really neat how in this remix you have kind of the, well, like they say, it's the traditional taste mix with the kind of graceful sounding piano, the flute, all this very nice traditional kind of sound, but you also have the rock instrumentation kind of supporting it. I think that's kind of a cool way of symbolizing her process and kind of her conflict in the. Oh yeah, no, she's a demure Japanese beauty with a fan held in front of her face, but she's also going to kick your ass with that fan. I mean, she is one of the most annoying characters in Arena, if I'm remembering correctly. No, oh my gosh. She is a projectile-heavy character that's going to throw fireballs and fans at you every which way, and unless you have some good anti-projectile tech, you're going to have a bad time. She's impossible, well, not impossible, but getting close to her is a pain. I'm a kanji main, so I have to figure it out.
I feel silly for this being my takeaway from this song, but I instantly thought of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 because number one, the flute, and actually a specific song from Xenoblade Chronicles 3 that it's called The Weight of Life, and it sounds very similar to this song. And I definitely know that Mitsuda and Ace didn't listen to this song, but it sure sounds like a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 song, and I love it for that. I love this remix is really nice, and I'm actually really curious to listen to the original and compare it to.
Yeah, same here, since I'm not very familiar with the original, but what I really liked about this remix track was that from the beginning to the end, it was like just a constant like slow build up, and then gradually, like, it starts out sparse, then gradually it adds more layers of instrumentation, and then at the very end, it's like it just pow kind of hits you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like was mentioned, like the Kitajo, the signature Kitajo, like piano break in the middle, like, so it's like it builds up and then it kind of slows back down a bit and then builds up again and then the guitar hits. Oh, it's so
Yep,
good.
and you have that piano
Yeah.
interlude. Oh, I like it a lot.
Good
And-
stuff.
And they use, if I'm not mistaken, like they titled this remix after one of Yukiko's kind of nicknames in 4. Just to, you know.
Sort of. Like, they give every character in Persona 4 Arena a weird nickname that's like a spin-off of what they are in 4. So if
That's her fighter name.
Yeah, if you saw Indomitable Snow Black, then that's her fighter name. But it's I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to. But
the Princess Amagi. I thought that came up in 4.
Oh no. Well, okay. The her name's her last name's Amagi.
Yep.
And in her Persona dungeon in 4, she's a princess waiting to be rescued by a handsome prince.
Yes.
So she's a spoiler for the first 5 hours of Persona 4. But the name of the track is Princess Amagi. I thought you were talking about, you know what? There's so much weird Persona references and wordplay in the Arena games. I got confused. I'm sorry.
No worries. I wasn't exactly clear.
I think Narukami's nickname is like the Sister Complex Kingpin or something.
Yes.
They get a little weird.
Oh god.
Yeah.
He's my other main in Persona 4 Arena.
He's good.
Yeah, I mean he's kind of the Ryu Kenakuma of the game, because he has his moveset's a little vanilla, but it's a very fun version of one of those.
Yep.
In fact, I mean the whole Persona 4 Arena is just a fun fighting game. Like, some characters feel sort of normal, but then you have insane gimmicks like Teddy throwing toys at you, but always in a specific order. And if Naoto hits you with 13 special moves, then the death counter runs out and she gets an instant KO.
Right, because of her like Mudo moveset in the original games.
Yeah, her Mudo moves don't instantly kill, but they will give you 1 or 2 ticks on the death meter, and when it hits 13, it's an instant kill.
That's neat.
And Junpei has to, like, the more he hits you with his bat, the more runs and strikes he scores, and that ups his damage a lot. The entire game is insane, but fundamentally it's a fun fighting game with a shockingly like long 20-hour story mode. That's basically a visual novel. But Persona 4 Arena, good music, even better remix. I
appreciate you bringing that on, because a lot of the spin-off games, except for the first Q game, for some reason, are not all that well represented. Oh, and I have another one of those in my hand for later. Is it time to move on, we think? Excellent. I'm ready if everyone else is.
Yeah, that was a smooth transition there.
All right, so the next block is our most recent Persona music block, and Gio has our first song in that.
Yeah, I'm bringing No More What Ifs from Persona 5 Royal. And it's a good one, folks.
And with that pick, we leveled up the Justice Arcana, which was Gio's choice.
Woo! Nice.
And I know you said that you picked that one just kind of a mix of personas and good things you get in the game. And
yeah, actually, this song "No More What Ifs" is kind of about, or it is about, someone from the Justice Arcana.
Oh, awesome! All right, I can't wait to listen to it. And then Sollosi has our last pick, aside from the bonus track.
That's right. I decided to go into the realm of Persona spin-offs again, and I picked the track Pull the Trigger, which is one of the 4 main battle tracks from Persona Q2 New Cinema Labyrinth. And I will do a lot of Persona Q explaining in the next block.
Very exciting. And that is our last Arcana level up today. And you were sort of split. You were saying you like the characters in Persona and Hierophant, but your personal philosophy was more Hermit or Moon.
Yeah, I think that Hermit is maybe the natural Arcana of the podcaster, because they're detached, they're locked in their room, but they're full of wisdom and mostly like talking about themselves and their experiences. It's a very self-indulgent Arcana, but I mean, I've done so many RPG fan podcasts. I think it's a natural fit. But in game, I always level up Hierophant because I want to hang out with Uncle Dojima and cafe owner Sojiro and summon Koryu against the final boss.
Yep.
Yep.
There are some good persona choices with these two arcanas. All right. Well, let's go listen to our more recent persona music, and I'm excited to talk about it.
deciding the color the rest of your life. Bit too heavy to think like that, but on both sides leave thick impact. Get wise or rise, so it would be best to find
Some of my regrets come haunting me till this day. Choice I made, it was wrong. I felt led to believe that I was alone. I learned it harder way, but you would have to go through what I've been through. 'Cause you're not alone in this frustration. So come with me. When your man can't get set, you can treat you like that. Make a move before they can make it last on you. And nobody else will do it for you. Like a bell frenetically playing in the dawn. And get the best of my soul, they drop the hammer down. Lost, look around you for a sec. You may feel lonely, but you're not alone. In this world, we're right here with
coincidence.
you.
Now I chose to meet you. Destiny, I saw before. I'm scarred up, but I'm feeling good. Move destiny, I'm coming through. Partner, we can do this right. You're the fire, I'm the wind tonight. Burning dread, haha, that's right. Baby, 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 we tight.
Make a move before they can make it last on you. And nobody else will do it for you. Like a band frenetically playing in the dawn. And get the best of my soul, let's drop the hammer down.
So I pull the trigger, make it look flashy even when it's bitter. Cannot defeat me even when I lose, I stand right back to the spot, go figure. You don't see what I see, but you don't have to see what I see. Just see how to ride, despite my differences, we're still tied.
You're in the perfect time for getting big change, especially when we're ready. More times think no brutal till it captures you.
Yeah. So No More What Ifs is like one example of a Persona song where I actively listen to the lyrics, and I think I have it down memorized at this point. I think Persona songs can be kind of hit or miss with the lyrics, because sometimes it just kind of doesn't make sense. I'm sorry to say that, but like,
That's
sometimes,
fair.
yeah, there was a change when they got this person named Benjamin Franklin to start doing the lyrics, but then I mean, Lotus Juice I think did the lyrics to No More What Ifs, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, and this one is so meaningful because it does a lot of heavy lifting to maybe flesh out a certain character from Persona 5, and it captures that person perfectly. Like it's this first of all, you do not get to hear the song a lot in game. You have to go to like a specific place in Persona 5 Royal. It's not in vanilla, you only kind of just hear it in the background. It's not really high in the mix, and and so it's easy to just kind of disregard it. I think you hear the instrumental version of this song a lot more. There's like a new area in Persona 5 Royal where you can like you collect like stuff. Yeah, it's like a side area anyway. And so that area that you go to with this song is like important to the character that it's describing, and it suits them so well. And it just has this defiant tone to it. Like I'm living my life the way I want, or like that's me, and it's so them. Yeah, it's like I do not regret my choices. It's so beautiful because like it's such a tender song. It has this beautiful melody to it. It's like a lounge loungy song.
It's got a very kind of slow lounge kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
It makes me think of like a smoky hotel bar or something, especially since the I mean Lynn's voice is so soulful.
Yeah.
And the beat here, which is very low key, I think there's electric piano in there, I think has some Latin flavor to it. So like it's a song that would be played in like a cigar club or something. It's very beautiful, and I haven't played Royal. I've played Persona 5 regular, but not Royal. And I've deduced what character you're talking about, and I use the word deduce specifically. But I'm not going to say that character is underdeveloped in regular Persona 5, but I think there's room to expand on them, and I think Persona 5 Royal does a lot of work to illuminate that character more, and this song, especially if you look at the lyrics, is one block in that puzzle piece, excuse me.
And I love that there's that room there.
I mean, I felt that he was underbaked in the original game. I didn't really understand him. I didn't connect with him. I mean, he's not someone you want to connect with, but I wanted to understand him. And this game, this expansion, just did so much for him. And now he's one of my favorite characters. And it does kind of play in like a smoky bar, if I'm not mistaken. Like that is indeed the vibe. And it's perfect for that.
Oh, it's not it's not Mama's Bar in that one part of downtown, is it?
Nope, it's an entirely different bar. Yeah,
it's an entirely different bar. All right.
Mama should have been a confidant. Just
yeah,
saying.
Yeah, please.
100,000%.
Yeah, agreed.
She's better than the lady that's the devil social link.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
I'm very emphatic about that, as you can tell. Yeah, and I think this is another like great example of kind of what we said before about like playing with genre. Each Persona 3, 4, and 5, I think each has kind of like a slightly different soundscape. Like 3, there's a little bit, I think that was like the introduction of Lotus Juice. You even get a little bit of like a hip hop cadence in Memories of You here and there. And then in 4, it's kind of a little more poppy, and 5 leans into the jazz. And I think that does a lot for this character and this song.
Yeah.
Yeah, that lounge jazz vibe in that song was great. And it reminded me a lot of this CD series from like the late 90s, early 2000s called Buddha Lounge, which was
gosh.
European collections of that like electronic chill out music.
Yes. Which is funny because I actually said that the your first pick, Neal, reminded me of like the Lifescapes kiosks from the early 90s. A little bit. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, I can totally see that sounding like Buddha Lounge.
I also want to mention like so Lotus Juice wrote the lyrics, and like he dropped a little reference to Persona 3 in the song Burn My Dread. Someone once said Burn My Dread. And I had to look it up, and it turns out he didn't actually write that song, Burn My Dread.
No, but he's in the battle version of it.
Oh, right.
Specifically.
So yeah, he's basically talking about himself. Like, someone once said Burn My Dread. You wrote that. You said that. So
that's entertaining. And that's not even the first time he does that. And like I love Lotus Juice.
Sometimes Lotus Juice verses are a little bit English word salad. Like,
yes.
like he's just speaking English words real fast in his very specific cadence. But you cannot deny the energy and the genuine wordplay sometimes. You sort of laugh in it and are impressed by it and are bopping to it at the same time. Like Lotus Juice is a genuine talent, and I think he's a crucial pillar to the music of the Persona series. And I think
100%.
I think we mentioned earlier, he was a music supervisor and writer for some of the PSP versions of Persona 1, Innocent Sin, and Eternal Punishment.
Definitely. I enjoy his contributions. Like, as far as we've discussed a lot of this Persona music kind of being this mixture of kind of melancholy and upbeat, and like tragic things happen, but the world moves on, and you can genuinely appreciate the good things, sort of thing. I think Lotus Juice's contributions kind of help steer me in that, appreciate the like genuinely surprising, fun, always catchy kind of moments.
But speaking of catchy Lotus Juice moments, that this is not No More What Ifs is not the only song he's on in this block.
No.
Okay. Now I'm going to take this opportunity to pop off on Persona Q2 New Cinema Labyrinth a little bit.
Yes, please do.
This game is a fan service clown fiesta. It is a dungeon crawling RPG in the style of the Etrian Odyssey games that brings the casts of Personas 3, 4, and 5 together. About 30 playable characters total, and you can sort of assemble your team and challenge these maps and do some light cartography to cover where you've been and figure out where to go next. It's easier map stuff than the pure Etrian Odyssey games, and instead of messing around with a class system, you're messing around with 30 characters with unique abilities and then attaching personas to each of them, because for some reason they're all able to share the full Arcana power now. Mm-hmm. to customize them further, and the stories are okay, not great, and the dialogue is usually just silly, but it's fun to see the Persona cast interact. Like, oh god, there's a scene in Persona Q2 where Akihiko and Chie compete to see who can like eat more meat and exercise better, while Makoto's chasing after them, and she ultimately decides that both of them need to eat more vegetables. It's yeah, like that's about the level of intellectualism we're handling here. But the music of this game, to a degree, this is also true of the first one, but even more so of the second one. It brings back everyone they possibly could from Personas 3 onward. All four of the main vocalists from those games, Yumi Kawamura from Persona 3, Mayumi Fujita from Persona 3 Portable, Shihoko Hirata from Persona 4, and Lin from Persona 5. Each of them gets a battle track corresponding to the protagonist of the game that they're from. And you can program it in menus, whichever one you want to use, or let's say you have or as a random shuffle, or there's DLC tracks like the main battle music from all of those games and Persona Q1. You can there's a huge amount of freedom for what songs you play in battle, and Pull the Trigger is the Persona 3 female protagonist / portable one of those four main tracks, and it features Mayumi Fujita again, who was also in the song Time that we featured earlier this episode. Yay. And I really like this one because I think that Fujita's voice is beautiful. The song has just a high energy funk with the walking, climbing bass and the horns, and I was just glad to play a game with the homegirl femtagonist in them again. So yes. And she's really fun to use in the game. She has link skills, which means she'll attack once, and then for everyone in your party that attacks again, she'll do an automatic follow-up attack. So she'll end up whacking fools with her Naginata 4 times in one round. It's
Naginata.
Yeah. Her weapon's a Naginata, and her joke weapon, I think, is a lacrosse stick and a broom, which is just great.
Perfect. A+.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 weapon choice. But the Persona Q2 has such a rich soundscape with that celebrates the history of Persona in the 2000s and 2010s. I think it's one of the last 3DS games released. It came out on the 3DS in 2018 when the Wii U was dead and the Switch was over a year in. But if you just go in there to enjoy a dungeon crawling RPG with some silly dialogue, some fun team customization, and some surprisingly great music, then this should be your jam as it is mine. I really, really like both of the Persona Q games because the Etrian Odyssey games are a little bit much for me in terms of how, how empty and how map heavy it is.
Right.
Well, yeah, Persona Q and Q2 give you lighter versions of that, but with a ton of Persona fan service. And that's and those are two things that really, really worked for me. So I'm not going to defend these games' stories or dialogue, but I will defend the music. And Pull the Trigger is just a funky, fun jam that brings back my homegirl from Persona 3 Portable.
And I gotta say, as a bass player, second I heard that song, all I could think was, whoa, that bass. I mean, I love that bouncy, almost rubbery bass line. Reminds me a lot of Tony Kanal's playing in early No Doubt.
Ooh, yeah. I can see it.
For me, yeah, I didn't know that there were so many battle themes in Persona Q2. I know I listened to one of them before, and I hadn't heard this one, and it's so good. And Lotus Juice has a little verse in it. It's so, and it's a lot of fun. And also, I'm looking at the video where it. Because we use like a YouTube playlist to listen to the songs, and then like the thumbnail for this one is like it's the female main protagonist all chibi-fied and then holding a gun, and it's so I don't know, it's such a funny visual. And
I mean they all have a chibi aesthetic. I think the gun is her evoker that she uses to transform, to summon her persona. But the seeing the cast interact and they even figure out that she's not from the same dimension as everyone else in the context of the story. It's again, it's silly, but I enjoyed
that's
it
meta.
a lot. Yeah, and if you go in with the right expectations and you like Persona games, then I think it's fun. But this shouldn't be your first ever Persona game you play.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair.
What if I like Etrian Odyssey games and Persona games?
Then definitely play this, but don't expect a level of stories. Don't expect a level of story sophistication as a Persona game, or a level of map making detail as Etrian Odyssey 4.
Cool, I'll keep that in mind.
I think this song has some lyrics that kind of like perfectly sum up Persona in a nutshell, which is great because it's one of the Q games. Move, Destiny, I'm coming through. Partner, we can do this, right? It's sort of like, I'm going to make my destiny, but I'm going to do it with other people's help. We're going to work together. It's perfect. And there is yet another reference to call back to Persona 3, which makes sense since this is the portable female protagonist song. There's more dread burning. But then there's also a baby, baby, baby in there, which is a reference to mass destruction, which is not from her root, but that's okay because it's still a really good song.
This is so much fun. I love this song. Oh god.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think it was a great song to have now because it culminates like so many things that we love about the series. And even though, the Persona games are oftentimes, very macabre and often somber, those fun moments, those moments of levity when we sometimes get to see like the kids just being kids and goofy teenagers, and it's like those are just those little pops of freshness,
And this really is kind of like we said, it's not your standard like, yes, this is perfect exemplary Meguro Persona music, but this really is a celebration of like all the different components, all the different games, all the different ways that Persona's kind of played with and used music. It's really neat. I think it's a good track to finish up with.
Yeah, 100%.
With that, any final thoughts on kind of all our music choices together? I love how we've kind of like run the gamut with spin-off games and early Persona, later Persona, Royal. It's been a great journey, and I think we have some good representative music.
I think we gave the series like the broad like overview it deserves. I don't know.
And what I also like is that while we generally associate Shoji Meguro with Persona music, we showed through various other selections that there's a lot more people who've contributed to the overall soundscape that we've come to know and love.
Yeah, and how each of those, people and components have kind of influenced each other over time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I think in that case, it's time for a little bit of housekeeping. So I want to mention the games that have made their debut today. We have quite a few of them, which is very exciting. So Persona 1, P3 Portable, Royal, and Persona Q2. all made their debut today. So well done. We covered a lot of new ground. And then coming up next for Rhythm, we have got our Music of the Year podcast, which is always a very exciting time. And then we're almost at episode 100 after that. And that's going to be a special surprise episode to look forward to. Very excited about it. And then after that, we're going to be focusing on the Xeno series, which will be excellent. There's a lot of good music there too. If you'd like to email us, you can reach us at music@rpgfan.com. Again, I'm Hilary Andreff, and if you want to contact me about the podcast, you want to talk more Persona music, the best way to reach me is Discord. I'm EP Fire there, and let's go through and let's give contact information for a panel. So, Sollosi, let's start with you.
Sure. You can find me every week almost at RPG Fans Retro Encounter. I am the showrunner and main host of that podcast. It posts every Thursday about a variety of topics. Later this month, we're doing 2 episodes on Xenosaga Episode 1, Der Wildschermacht, and in January, we're doing 2 episodes on Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber. But if you want to find me online individually and not just listen to the podcast, you can. I am at The Real Monsoon on Twitter, at Evoker for Dogs, also on Twitter, and Monsoon Mike on RPG Fans Discord.
Wonderful. And Neal, how about you?
You can reach me via email, nealch@rpgfan.com. That's NEALCH. Or I'm NealCH RPG Fan on the Discord.
Great. And Gio.
Yeah, you can find me on the RPG Fan Discord. I'm Gio there. And then I'm also on Twitter at 10bstar, TENBI star. And you can also email me at gio@rpgfan.com.
Great. Thanks. And Sollosi mentioned some of what's going on one of our other lovely podcasts, Retro. I also want to mention that Retro just posted a great special Muppets casting episode, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Please give Retro a listen. And then we also have Random, which is kind of our usually current information reviews. They most recently did a review roundup, which was fun, and more recent games. So please give them a listen as well. Also take a look at our social media. We're around there. Check out our Twitch. There's a lot to see. So I want to encourage, if you like this episode, check out some of those other avenues as well. It also helps to review us on your preferred podcasting platform, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, subscriptions, reviews, all that stuff really helps. So we appreciate it. And to close out the show, I kind of stole the bonus track today because we were discussing covers and some other things. And there's a vocalist I really want to feature who's done a lot of amazing Persona covers and kind of leans into the jazzy route. So the bonus track that I have picked today is, her name is Sapphire, doing a cover of Snowflakes, which is a Golden song originally, but also featured in Dancing All Night, which is where I first heard it.
How December appropriate.
Right. It's very December appropriate. And it's also featuring the consoles on some of the instrumentation. So we will give that a listen. We appreciate you all coming with us on our journey through Persona music today, leveling up some arcanas. Encourage everybody to go forth, enjoy the positive moments like the games encourage us to do, and just thank you again for listening.
It's my party, and I'll burn my dread if I want to.
Yes. Yes. If nothing else today, we've learned this music encourages us to burn all the dreads.
You should be careful saying that at like a hair salon or something. But
yeah.
But agreed. Yes. Burn my dread. Burn thy dread.
Not the hairstyle. The feeling, the concept.
thick and thin, this friendship, it was built to last. Here we swore that we'd be true to bonds that were forged in our past. Snowflakes falling on your face, a cold wind blows away the laughter from this treasured place, but in our memories it stays. This is where we say farewell, and the wind, it feels a little colder now. Here times run out like a spell, but laughter's however. This is where we saw it through. Thick and thin, this friendship, it was built to last. Here we swore that we'd be true to bonds that were forged in our past. This is where the snow falls now, cold and hard, and yet it melts upon my brow. Something keeps me warm inside. Some dream keeps me going through the night. Some dream keeps me going through the night.
My friend who loves playing fighting games is gonna get a kick out of this. I'm gonna make him let's do it.
Good.
I'm also an E Honda main in Street Fighter 2, so I know a thing or two about being annoyed by fireballs and figuring out how to get by them.
Well, I'm sure you do.
But yeah, maybe this is a not the comparison you were making, but Yukiko is the Sagat of Persona 4 Arena.
Yep.
Just the image of Yukiko and Sagat.
Just give her an eye patch.
Yeah, she's got an eye patch and she's just going, tiger, tiger, tiger.
Over and over and over. You're like, stop it.